Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be spending some time talking about some Cincinnati Bengals rookies. First up, Eric Gregory, a little spotlight on him. Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic really kind of put out a great piece on Eric Gregory. Kind of be spending some time talking about him. Gregory, of course, is a UDFA for Cincinnati that I think really has a shot at making this 53-man roster. Also, your fifth-round pick, Jalen Rivers, right? We spent a ton of time talking about Dylan Fairchild. We took another offensive lineman in the draft as well in Rivers. Talk about what his role exactly will look like with Cincinnati in 2025. Some Trey Hendrickson trade rumors as well. Those are continuing to swirl around, and I'm sure that's going to happen over the course of the next weeks and months as well. And also, Ring of Honor conversation. Bengals nominees for 2025 for Ring of Honor were announced today. We're going to be breaking down those as well. Before we get into that, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page at any time. There's news from the beat reporters, injury news, certainly during the season. You will find that on my Twitter page as well. So help me out. Give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. So as I mentioned, Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic dropped a piece earlier this morning kind of detailing Eric Gregory and what exactly his journey to the NFL looked like at this point. Again, Eric Gregory was a guy that was a UDFA, and this is a guy that played a ton of collegiate football. He started 44 games in the SEC, played in 61 collegiate games as well, and played so long in college football, he even played Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in 2019 when those two, of course, were playing for LSU. But really the focus of this piece from Paul Dehner Jr. is about the changing of college football and how, in turn, that is affecting the NFL as well. Obviously, with the NIL and transfer portal, you are seeing guys stick around in college football longer and not necessarily rush into the NFL because they can still make a good living in college through the NIL and things like that. And a lot of other teams are kind of talking about this, right? You're seeing the Bengals draft some older guys. You're seeing teams around the league do that as well. And Gregory's also a guy that's really mature, right? His father recently died. He, too, has a daughter. We've talked about Demetrius Knight Jr. and the fact that he has a child as well. And he was very upfront in this piece from Dehner and was like, yeah, the reason I stayed in college another year was I was making some money with the NIL, and I ended up having a daughter. And it just made more sense for me to stay at this point in time. And his phone kept ringing. It's also something that was discussed in this article here from Paul Dehner Jr. His phone kept ringing throughout kind of those later draft rounds, right? And he was kind of getting a little frustrated because he thought it was teams getting ready to draft him, but instead it was teams kind of gauging his interest if he would want to sign as an undrafted free agent. But this is a guy at Arkansas, played a lot of SEC ball, showed those stats up there on the screen just a moment ago, really did have a lot of production there in Arkansas for those couple of years, and I view him as a guy that could really fit into this defensive tackle room for the Cincinnati Bengals, right? I talked about how this room in particular feels like if there is going to be a UDFA that makes this roster, it is going to be right here in this defensive tackle room. Obviously, there's the connection with Cross and Al Golden as well, but Eric Gregory probably viewed as kind of a safer player, certainly has played a lot of football games, not that Cross hasn't as well, but I think Eric Gregory, certainly a guy from Arkansas that could perhaps find his way onto this Cincinnati Bengals roster, and we know Zach Taylor loves UDFAs, right? His first year as head coach, there was a UDFA that made the team. Obviously, last year, Muma Jongmeta as well. Taylor always says, if you are a UDFA, you should come here because we are going to give you an equal opportunity to go out there and compete for a roster spot as those draft picks as well. I think Zach Taylor really has stuck by his word there. Eric Gregory, one of the main guys I'm focused on here for Cincinnati from a UDFA perspective. Make sure you guys go check out that article over on The Athletic from Paul Dehner Jr. for more details. Pin comment time here on today's show. Will Eric Gregory make the Cincinnati Bengals roster? Let me know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no. Let's talk about another rookie here on today's show. This guy was, in fact, drafted, and that is Jalen Rivers. And Scott Peters told Jeff Hobson of Bengals.com that he will be starting out at right tackle. And I thought that was kind of an interesting development because we've all heard that Jalen Rivers kind of, the good thing about him is his versatility to play all those spots along the offensive line. But Peters was saying, you know what, we're really going to focus in on him playing at that tackle position and then kind of go from there. This is what Scott Peters told Jeff Hobson the other day, saying this: we like to major guys in one spot so they start to build the toolbox. It's a little easier for them to learn and then replicate those moves on the opposite side after they've learned one spot. He's someone we know when the time's right, we'll be able to move him around a little bit. Now, look, the Bengals are taking it slow here with Jalen Rivers. Like, we talk about a guy like Dylan Fairchild, right? We spent a lot of time on the show talking about him, your guy that you took in the third round out of Georgia. Like, the expectation for him is to come in and be a starter for you, either at left guard or right guard right away for you in 2025. You took Rivers a couple of rounds later, and, the expectation's a little bit different. Obviously, I haven't been spending as much time talking about him, but shoot, if he is a competent backup for this football team in 2025, that would be ideal, in my opinion, right? You have incredible tackles in Orlando Brown Jr. and Amarius Mims, but both of those guys were banged up at points throughout the 2024 season. If you have a guy that was a draft pick in Jalen Rivers, and you can pop him in there, if something happens, OBJ or Amarius Mims get nicked up, and you can put him in there and feel good about him going out there and either protecting Joe Burrow from the blind side or, of course, that right tackle spot, I think you got to feel really, really good if you are Zach Taylor, Scott Peters, and, of course, Joe Burrow. His development going to be a little bit more slower than Dylan Fairchild, but I think at the end of the day, the goal is for him as a fifth-round pick to eventually become a starter for this football team. Is it going to happen in 25? Probably not, barring injuries, of course, but obviously the goal is to get him ready for the season. Continue with our show here in a second, but do want to make note that these Bengals hoodies, these Crucial Catch hoodies, are out there on sale. They are on clearance. You can go get them. chatsports.com/Bengals hoodie / and, this is all part of the NFL's initiative kind of to fight back against cancer, right? It really is a phenomenal cause here. And, again, these hoodies are on sale. So really check them out. Got a great deal. I believe they're at least $30 off what they were typically marked up at. So we'll put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show. chatsports.com/Bengals hoodie / All right, got to spend some time talking about Trey Hendrickson here, of course, as well. Got some more trade rumors being floated around. People nationally love talking about Trey Hendrickson trade rumors, right? Trey Hendrickson to Detroit, right? Those trade rumors are kind of continuing to swirl, but the Detroit Free Press kind of put an end to those rumors, which I really appreciate because I don't think it's going to happen either. Here's what David Burkett had to write for the press, saying this: I haven't gotten any indication the Lions are serious players to add Hendrickson. In fact, all signs point to the opposite. Hendrickson wants a contract that makes him one of the highest paid edge rushers in the NFL, and that price point, $35 million annually, doesn't jibe with how the Lions are operating financially. They intend to pay Aiden Hutchinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and several more of their own draft picks and don't have that kind of money allocated to a second defensive end. I appreciate someone coming out and just being honest and saying, hey, yeah, it's probably not going to look like that when it comes to a potential trade for Trey Hendrickson, right? The biggest thing about this, and we've talked about this several times here on the show, a team not only has to give up compensation for Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals are obviously asking for a lot, rumored to be a first-round pick. But then on top of that, you got to pay him. And on top of that, he's getting up there in age. So there really is a lot of concerns here. It's a very interesting situation with a very interesting player, I might add, as well. And I think from the Bengals' perspective, they might be thinking, you know what? The past 2 years have been phenomenal with Trey Hendrickson, but we're not sure that he can continue to produce at that level. Shoot, we may even have seen the best of Trey Hendrickson at this point already. That's what's kind of making this process so difficult for Cincinnati, and obviously very frustrating for Trey Hendrickson because he's sitting there looking at what he's done the past 2 years and looking at what he got compensated the past 2 years and saying, shoot, those things don't add up. He's trying to get his money, and Cincinnati's kind of sitting there saying, well, might be a little bit too late in the ball game for that to happen. But this is something, as we've talked about, is going to continue to be a distraction for this football team. It's going to go months and weeks down the line. I don't think he will get traded, but it will be very fascinating to see how this plays out. All right, open-ended question here for you guys in the comment section. How will the Trey Hendrickson saga end? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Obviously, that's open-ended. Several ways you can go about that, right? Oh, the Bengals trade him. Oh, he changes his mind, says, you know what, I'll take the $28 million or whatever the previous offer was. Or, you know what, I'm not going to take that offer. I'm just going to play out my current contract. Or I'm going to hold out, and perhaps Cincinnati will ultimately change their mind. There's a lot of ways this thing could go. Let me know what you think will happen in the comments section of today's show. All right, before we get out of here, I got to talk some Ring of Honor. Earlier today, Bengals Ring of Honor nominees for 2025 were announced, and it will be happening during the football game on October 26th when the Bengals host the New York Jets. Couple of notes here. 2 guys get in, right? We'll get to the list of nominees here in a second, but 2 guys are going to get in. This is the first time that we've had the Ring of Honor game that wasn't a primetime game. It's a 1 o'clock game, Bengals and Jets, so that certainly is very interesting. How does this get determined? Well, season ticket members and suite holders can vote, and this is year 5, the 5th year of the Ring of Honor. And by the way, I do want to add this. They are going to review and explore ways to reshape aspects of the Ring of Honor to ensure it remains relevant and sustainable. Changes announced next year ahead of voting are probably going to be something that transpires as well. So we might see a bit of an adjustment here this time next year. Currently got 10 guys in the Ring of Honor. This is who we got. Obviously, your 2 quarterbacks up there, 2 most famous quarterbacks in organization history, apart from probably Carson Palmer and Joe Burrow. You got your 2 Super Bowl, not winners, but appearing quarterbacks, I guess. Ken Anderson and Boomer Esiason. Willie Anderson, one of the best offensive linemen to ever play the game. Paul Brown, of course. Isaac Curtis. Corey Dillon at that running back spot. My favorite Cincinnati Bengal of all time, Chad Johnson. Tim Krumrie, greatest offensive lineman of all time in Anthony Munoz, and Ken Riley as well. We've got 9 nominees. 2 of these guys will be in to the Ring of Honor. Breacher, Jim Breech, the kicker for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cris Collinsworth, obviously a very a household name, no doubt. David Fulcher, Dave Lapham. It's ridiculous he's not already in the Ring of Honor. Max Montoya, Lemar Parrish, Bob Trumpy, Reggie Williams, and James Brooks, rounding out this year's nominees. Let me know, who are your 2 2025 Ring of Honor inductees? If it were up to you, which 2 guys are you picking? I'm picking Dave Lapham. That second guy is a bit up in the air, right? You could go several different directions with him. If I had to pick, I would actually say Jim Breacher at that kicker position. I don't know if that's necessarily the most popular thing in the world, but I definitely think he deserves to be up there in the Ring of Honor at some point. But let me know, who are your 2 2025 Ring of Honor inductees?